All right, fire away.
Jim, you guys have faced the last 2 or 3 weeks quarterbacks who have really gotten rid of the ball quick to kind of neutralize you guys' pad. You see another one in Tua. What's sort of the give and take to try to respond to that, to what they're doing?
Yeah, well, I mean, you see that a lot. I mean, you go way back in the day, Eli Manning got rid of the ball so fast there was a reason that he would hardly ever get sacked and stayed healthy for all those years. So, offensively, I think, I don't want to speak for offensive guys, but you got to balance how quick the ball comes out versus your ability to make plays down the field. And I'll just speak on Pittsburgh. The way that game was going, other than a couple plays outside, which we can play better, the ball was coming out fast, but we were getting drives stopped and we were keeping the game in management. It took a lot of their play action, sort of deeper shot stuff away to be able to go. So, there's a lot of different ways. You want to hold the ball longer to try to push the ball down the field. Now the rush becomes more of an impact. Different things like that. There's different things coverage-wise that can go because if you're aggressive to take quick answers away, which we were in that game, it makes you a little bit more susceptible to some of those outside shots that we got with DK. So, it's all just a give and take of where you are, what you're doing, where the game score is. If an offense is in control or keeping the game, they're in control of the game. Well, there's no reason for them to hold the ball long enough to take those hits or, put the ball in danger way. If the game's a little bit different and they're trying to catch up, it's hard to win with that strategy. So, Joe Burrow got rid of the ball super fast too. We've seen a lot of those guys too. Nobody got rid of it faster than Aaron Rodgers, though. Just as the year, just stat wise, over the course of the year, and really until that really crappy drive we had right after we got the penalty, we had come out half, got a good 3 and out, and then we got the penalty, and then we just really went to pieces. We started trying to, the thing I warn against a lot of times, we started trying to make plays instead of just trying to keep playing our stuff, and ended up giving a touchdown there. And I really thought that's where that game changed. We can keep that 9-3 right there, force the punt, get the ball back, man. It's just like I kept telling the guys on the sideline, man, it's just like Green Bay. We're hanging in there. We're going to make a play and win the game. But that was disappointing.
How do you feel about Miles coming out after the game and expressing frustration with how you guys are continuing to lose every single week?
Yeah, I mean, Miles is one of our key players, and he's certainly has a voice and certainly has his opinion. And I think anybody that wants to stand behind their statements and speak up, I don't see any issue with that.
I think it's been 3 games that Miles hasn't had a sack, and he said last week, even if he wasn't blocked, it would have been hard for him to get Rodgers. Did you see anything that he could have done differently to affect Rodgers more or affect that game?
No, there was only really one play, and that was when they sprinted away from him. And, he has the back, and he's trying to chase the quarterback down. He went inside the back, and then the ball came all the way back across. That was really sort of the only time. In that game, we had some really, really good rushes, but it was, ball was just coming fast. And like I said, there's 2 sides to that. It takes away a lot of the big strike ability of the offense to be able to do that. So it's just that's just sort of where it was. But if you look across that game, not just Miles, but our front 4 had some really, really good pass rushes. But, that's quarterback play, get rid of the ball. And if we can, we can make one of those plays in there, like right before the third down stop, right before the roughing the punter, Denzel, really good job getting his hands on that inside breaker, and that ball pops up, and here comes Carson coming, and he's maybe a yard or 2 away from making an interception right there. But those short passes, contact, PBUs, tip balls, things like that, you got to be able to capitalize on those. We're really close there, but close doesn't count. But that's you look at that play and like, man, we're one step away from if that ball just hangs in the air a little bit longer, or just one step better. That's like pick six right there. And we got to make our share of those plays.
You guys are third in the league defensively. Last in red zone defense. Do you have an explanation for that?
No, I mean we're working really hard, and it's come different places. I think the double move was just outside of the red zone. Generally, best run teams play good red zone defense, and we've allowed some rushing touchdowns in there close, like Minnesota. Just shoved it right up in the A gap, and then early in the year, I thought there was some times where it's hard to stop them in the red zone, but we took the field after some turnovers or things like that, and just we played like three really good plays that go for it on fourth down and make it. We just got to keep grinding it. We got to play physical down there. We got to take the run away and get back on the right side of that, because having a chance to hold them to field goals or force long field goals is paramount to keeping the score down, and that's what we're trying to do.
Like Campbell had pretty good coverage a lot of the day on Metcalf. How do you get a guy to turn his head? I mean, is that
that is something that we coach a little bit different here, and a lot of guys coach people to play blind to the ball and play the blur of the ball. It's a tough situation to be in. A lot of colleges coach it that way. And he was only here, boots on the ground, for not very long. But he had some really good, tough, competitive plays. I thought he was battling. They obviously were testing the new guy. And, you're talking about one of the premier receivers in the NFL doing it. But we'll get him up on that, because I think on two of those plays, if we get our head around, there's chances for interceptions there, I thought it was tough, like, the very first play of the game, Tyson's, they're up there, they run a play action. He loses his eyes, and he's the deep third player on that. He's got to be able to see that. I think we can get a little more experience, time on task. Tough position to put him in there, but I thought he was battling, and he had his fair share of good plays, but then also had a couple that I'm sure he'd like to have back. I did like the way he was playing physical. He made some really good physical tackles in there.
Mentioned the fact you guys haven't had a chance to play with many leads this year. So I guess how, if at all, has that impacted?
Well, I mean, we're not pointing any fingers or anything else, because there's plenty of things that we can do to, turn the ball over, to score on defense, that we can change that. But, it's a little bit like Tony had talked about a couple of weeks ago. I mean, it's real life. Like if you don't have the lead, the quarterback doesn't have to hold the ball very long. And if they, if they don't feel the need to put the ball in dangerous places to try to make a play, then your opportunity to get interceptions is down. If they're saying, like, look, we cannot take a sack strip, we're seeing a lot more run on these, like, third down and threes and fours than we ever have in the past, because, again, a lot of times the offense, they're playing with a lead, and it's like, okay, how can we mess this game up? Well, we can mess it up with a sack strip or an interception. And if you really go, I mean, that's really what happened at Green Bay, and I think teams saw that. Like, that game's right in there, and they had a third and fairly short. They tried to throw it, we intercepted it, and that changed the whole game right there. I mean, there's a lot of things that we need to worry about. We need to take care of our own selves. We need to play better on third down. We need to play better in the red zone. But yeah, that is a dynamic that exists, and I mean, that's not pointing a finger at anybody. That's just the way it is.
Teams like teaching different methods to get their head around or whatnot. Were you saying that for here you want them to get their head around or play the ball or play their hands?
Yeah, we teach guys to look and lean and to get their head around to play the ball. That's just the way we've done things here, and try to make. It's hard to play blind. you can make plays playing blind, but you can also get a lot of PIs and things like that, or have great coverage, and then the ball just, goes. And, there's a potential on Sunday that, the wind is going to be blowing pretty good, and the ball's going to move around a lot. And our ability to find the ball down the field is a big part of what we do.
Okay, Miami's roster, their running back, Devon, from a speed standpoint, how do you guys kind of combat his speed and how he uses that in the run game?
Yeah, a lot of times it's almost like there's a punt returner back there. Achan is super, super fast. He can get the perimeter a lot of different ways. They run the wide zone, and, they're really attacking the outside numbers of the field. They get the ball on, like, bubble screens and toss sweeps, and even the checkdowns are wide. So, we got to defend all 53 and a third of the field, and also you got to find a way to get it cut off. Like a lot of times in punt return, you got to cut the field off, force guys to cut back. There's a lot of people that you want to string it to the sideline. There's others that you want to get it cut off. They're a speed team. He's got great speed, not just carrying the ball, but, getting as a pass receiver. So he's their leading rusher. I think he's probably even their leading receiver. And they use him a lot of different ways. So our ability to combat his speed on the perimeter and have good leverage tackles and things like that is going to be very important in this game.
Of teaching players who have been taught to play coverage blind, and how do they make that adjustment?
Yeah, I mean, it's just coaching technique. I mean, I don't think it's any different than the way some people coach a double team on the offensive line, or some people coach a way to take on a block or things like that. Everybody has techniques that they believe in, and that's what individual periods for. That's what all that stuff's for. And I mean, there's a lot of different ways to do things, but in order to be able to play the ball, you gotta see the ball.
We were talking about Mason a few weeks ago, and you're looking for an improved pass rush, and he had it for a game. Have you seen him keep that consistency level, or?
Yeah, I wouldn't judge it on this last game because there were a lot of wins. Him and Malik I thought were rushing really well in there, and you just got to keep on coming, and eventually it's the old adage of whatever hammer strike finally breaks the rock. You can't get discouraged by having a good rush and the ball coming out, not getting a sack. You just keep on coming, and if you do that, you'll be rewarded. Okay, all right.